everything in their power, as we relay to you here every day, example after example. They've done everything they can to mitigate and reduce the harm to the American people. He's gone out of his way to find creative solutions to ensure our service members don't miss a paycheck, for example, to ensure that the WIC program, that the nutrition assistance to women, infants, and children is still flowing. President Trump has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that if there is any way to fund these programs that are drying up now, that he will do it. If there was any way to fund SNAP during the Democrat shutdown, you can be assured that your commander-in-chief would do it. But we are now reaching a breaking point. Thanks to Democrats voting no on government funding now 14 different times, SNAP benefits for millions of American families are drying up. It's about 1 in 8 people in this country who rely upon this to literally put food on their table. And the blame for this lies 100% with the senators sitting over there on the Democrat Party. They are the ones who have locked arms and decided over and over and over and over, 14 times now, to vote against these services being provided. And now I want you to think about that. You're going to have real people, real families. You're going to have children who will go hungry beginning this weekend when those resources dry up. They rely upon that, and yet the Democrats continue with their political games in Washington while people are sitting around the dinner table without the resources that they need. The administration has done all it can to keep this program afloat, but the limits have been reached here. And what are the Democrats doing today? Where are the Democrats? Are they in the Senate today? No, they're out campaigning. While critical SNAP benefits run dry, the Democrats have skipped town. They've abandoned their post in the Senate, and the reason that's so important and noteworthy for the American people is the Senate is the only place where this can end. The last hope of reopening the government before millions of Americans go hungry. They've abandoned their post. Democrats are now this is the incredible part, they're now trying to somehow blame Republicans for cutting off SNAP when Republicans, remember, are the ones who have voted 14 times for the SNAP benefits to flow. It's the Democrats who voted every single time to turn that off. The same Democrats who've been perfectly fine with defunding SNAP and WIC for over a month now are suddenly claiming to be outraged that Republicans and President Trump can't just wave some magic wand and fix the mess that they themselves have created. If they're suddenly waking up to the pain their reckless decision is causing, then there's one simple way to fix it. They can come back in here and vote to reopen the government. But we don't think they're going to do that. Now, this is what's interesting. The most recent development is that you've got many more people now calling on the Senate Democrats to do the right job. There's a handful of moderates still in the Democrat Party, and they are very upset about that. The tension is rising. You had Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, for example, who just yesterday, I think it was, accused his own party of, quote, playing chicken with the food security of 42 million Americans. He's right. And you've seen now the avalanche of people and organizations and institutions calling on the Democrats to reopen the government and vote for the Clean CR. You've got labor unions. You've got the largest airlines in America. You've got independent voters. Working class Americans across the country, they are all pleading with the Democrats to do their job and stop using their hardships, the people's hardships, for the Democrats' political games in Washington. Yesterday, there was a lot said, written about an editorial that was in the Washington Post. I commend it to your reading if you haven't seen that. But it reads in part just one line out of that. I would like to stand up here and read you the whole thing. The Washington Post, as you know, is not generally on my side. They said, quote, Democrats openly acknowledge that they refuse to do this, reopen the government, because it would mean giving up their leverage. If they persist, it will mean families start to go hungry. Now, look, this isn't some novel idea. As you know, the Democrats have always traditionally said, breathlessly, given speeches passionately saying that you've got to keep the government funded. You should never shut it down. It would be so dangerous. And we've recounted this over and over. I mean, I literally could be here all day reading the Democrats' own past statements on the perils of shutting down the government, but I'm just going to highlight a couple this morning because they're relevant and timely. I'll begin with Senator Coons. He's the senior Democrat senator from Delaware. In 2013, he this quote, "Our democracy cannot function if the majority party threatens to shut down the government unless it gets its way," unquote. And that was Senator Coons in 2013. And what is he saying now? Earlier this week, he said, quote, "Frankly, this is our only moment of leverage." Quite a switch. Bernie Sanders has got a lot of airtime here lately, and back in 2018, Senator Bernie Sanders said this, quote, "The truth is that shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action that we must do everything possible to prevent." That was in 2018. You know what he said this month? Quote, "If we reopen the government, we lose our leverage." Senator Sheldon Whitehouse in 2013. "The shutdown was, quote, entirely unnecessary and has harmed our economy and our reputation in the world. But if we also can't forget, we must never again allow extremist hostage-taking to create this kind of disruption." That was 2013. Just days ago, the senator from Rhode Island said the opposite. It's the only lever we have, meaning the shutdown. What he means is that the pain of the American people is their political lever. I guess he's forgotten his cries of alarm over the extremist hostage-taking. And how about the House? Infamously now, we all know, the Democrat whip, Catherine Clark, the second highest ranking Democrat in the House, said, quote, "Just last year," she said, "they are taking a non-issue, a false flag, and saying this is the reason we can't proceed. It is a dangerous precedent to be threatening a shutdown." That's what she said in 2024. And what'd she say about a week ago? The opposite. Quote, "Of course, there will be families that are going to suffer here, but it's one of the few leverage times we have." Many House members have echoed the same hypocrisy, and I'm not going to waste our time with it this morning, but I do want to leave you with this quote from Chuck Schumer, because he is the actual architect of the shutdown. He is the one that is preventing the Senate Democrats from doing the right thing. In March of this year, as you know, he voted on the same CR to avert a shutdown. And he said then, quote, in his speech on the Senate floor and in a bunch of interviews, this is what he said on the Senate floor, quote, "The CR was certainly bad, but a shutdown would be 15 or 20 times worse. It was a vote of principle." And today, Chuck Schumer, entirely void of principle, by his own estimation, said, quote, "Every day gets better for his party." Tell that to the millions of American families facing a hunger crisis now as a direct result of his failed leadership and shenanigans. Those Democrats have all collectively voted 14 times over the last several weeks to reject the clean continuing resolution to fund the government, and they've made it abundantly clear they're going to continue to do that, to hold the American people hostage, so long as it serves their political interests, to look tough to the leftist radicals in their base. Republicans have done our part to end the government, the Democrat shutdown, and now it's time for Democrats to do theirs. The path forward is simple. Please, every American who is concerned about this, every American that is feeling the harm, you should call the Senate Democrats and tell them to stop the nonsense. Echo the voices of the unions, of the airlines, hardworking people everywhere, and tell them to stop doing this and open the government. We have to do that. 42 million Americans are set to miss meals starting tomorrow, and this should be the easiest vote they've ever taken in their lives. I don't want to belabor this point any longer, because I'm delighted to introduce you to our guest for the daily press conference here. Open the government. Everybody knows Brooke Rollins, 42 million Americans are set to miss meals starting tomorrow. Leads the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This should be the easiest vote they've ever taken in their lives. And, of course, her department, I don't want to belabor this, and oversees SNAP benefits to all these tens of millions of Americans. We're fortunate to have her here today. She's going to talk about the devastating effects of the Democrats' decisions on all this, and I'm delighted to give her the podium now. Brooke, so thanks so much for being here, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mike, Mr. Speaker. Really great to be here with everyone. I was reminded I was in the Speaker's backyard in Louisiana over the weekend and on Friday, and we went to a restaurant there, and our waiter by the name of Joe was wonderful. He was a multi-generational Louisiana and New Orleans, and he was our server, and he was just so impressive. And towards the end, he brought up that, well, this is a job he had to take because he was furloughed and so was not making any money, and he worked for the federal government. He didn't know who I was. And I said, well, Joe, I can appreciate that. You know, I'm sort of in that world as well. And I said, where do you work? And he said, well, I work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in their New Orleans office as part of the financial team. And so it just really brought home for me, to echo what Mike said, just thanking so many thousands of federal workers who are showing up, who are still doing their job, who aren't getting paid, those that are now concerned about putting food on the table and making their mortgages and paying their rent. But to be out in the country, I was in Indiana yesterday, and understand the real sort of pain that's being felt. But just to echo a couple of the themes that Speaker Johnson talked about, again, the idea that the Democrats have now for 14 different votes voted to keep the government closed is absolutely unconscionable. Every day they hold the federal government hostage. They are leaving millions of families' livelihoods and critical benefits, including SNAP, hanging in the balance. Of course, we all know the 13,000 air traffic controllers working without pay, many turning to Uber, taking second jobs in restaurants, etc., as this shutdown continues. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees are not receiving a paycheck. Thousands of small business loans are going unapproved each month because of the shutdown, equating to almost $4 billion in capital being taken out of the pockets of small business owners across this country, truly the backbone of our economy. It is a fact that Democrats shut down the government over free health care for illegal aliens and their $1.5 trillion partisan wish list. Democrats need to stop playing politics with the livelihoods of hardworking Americans and open the government now by voting for the clean resolution. We are here today because SNAP benefits run dry tomorrow. So the truth has finally revealed itself, hasn't it? Democrat support for programs like SNAP is now reduced to cynical control over people's lives. This last month has shown that the party who constantly says it puts people over politics does the complete opposite. Millions of Americans, as of tomorrow, will no longer receive SNAP and potentially WIC or even a paycheck. Democrats have instigated a disgusting dereliction of duty unlike anything I have seen in all my years doing this work, all to favor illegal aliens and other radical far-left policies that benefit only a small, tiny sliver of their base. I am embarrassed for Chuck Schumer. He is going out of his way to please the likes of Zohran Mamdani, a man who is polarizing America with his socialist rhetoric and anti-American principles. The very essence of government responsibility is to the citizens who live and work here to protect their interests first, unless you are a Democrat in the United States Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are doing all this because they fear the socialists and the radicals to their left. Ironically, in leaving American families hungry and American children without food, they are giving a preview of what those socialists will do to every one of us if they ever take power. What you're really seeing here is the end of the Democrats as a responsible party of government, a party that ends governance, a party that ignores Americans, a party that cannot master the most basic principles and processes of government, is a party that cannot be trusted with the reins of power. It isn't oriented toward anything but the end of the system in which it exists. SNAP is arguably just the beginning. The logical and inevitable end to where this all goes is the Democrats and the whole superstructure of constitutional government. President Trump has made it clear, reopen the government, get government funding back on solid footing, restore the confidence of American families who count on programs like SNAP, and stop treating them and their well-being as pawns in a political game, according to the Democrats. Prioritize American citizens, prioritize American families, and prioritize American children. I would like to make a quick note and then want to obviously leave lots of time for questions. Yesterday, I was in Indiana, and I was visiting a soybean farm, sixth generation soybean farm, the Everetts. And they have about 1,500 acres right outside of Indianapolis. We were harvesting corn, but they also do soybeans. And as I was there, it occurred to me that what President Trump has been doing over the last week or weeks in fighting across the world to open up markets for American farmers, for American families, while the Democrats are back here playing political games. It must stop. We must get the government open. And our citizens and these voters and our taxpayers and our families and our children expect no less. Thank you all.
All right, take a few questions. Chad, go ahead. You're standing up in the back. Go ahead.
Hello, Chad.
This question for the Secretary. The minority leader in the House said yesterday, Hakeem Jeffries, that the term he used was lying, that some of these SNAP benefits couldn't be liberated. Can you explain, refute that, give us your perspective, what their perspective is, and what your argument is, why they can't?
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity to explain that. So the fact that the Democrats are saying, but wait, USDA has money in their accounts, why it is really their fault, I've seen it over and over and over from some of their leaders, is absolute false, and it is a lie. We have been saying on October 10th, we sent messages out. On October 24th, we sent messages out. These benefits end on November 1st. Now, let me get down into a little bit of the details on that to better explain. So there is a contingency fund at USDA, but that contingency fund, by the way, doesn't even cover, I think, half of the $9.2 billion that would be required for November SNAP, but it is only allowed to flow if the underlying program is funded. It's called a contingency fund, and by law, contingency fund can only flow when the underlying fund is flowing. So, for example, if today the Democrats say, oh, never mind, sorry, we'll open the government, and SNAP flows, Hurricane Melissa or one of the hurricanes hits, that's the contingency fund that we would use to send more money into the vulnerable communities that are harmed by a specific event like a hurricane. But it is a contingency fund that can only flow if the underlying appropriation is approved. And listen, even if it could flow, it doesn't even cover half of the month of November. So here we are again in 2 weeks having the exact same conversation.
I would just add to that. The Democrats are lying about that, and I think they know that. Some of the ones who are out saying it are actually attorneys. They can read the black letter law themselves. They've even filed a lawsuit, you saw, to try to do it. Why? Because they wanted a talking point. They know that's a frivolous piece of litigation. They know they're going to lose, but they also know it'll take many weeks or months to have that ultimately determined by a court because of the way the justice system works. So they're using it as a talking point to try to claim. I believe they know for a fact that what they filed in the court is false. You know, they're lawmakers. They're supposed to know how the law works. And so the whole thing is just shameful. And they're using the people as pawns in this game. That underlying fund that the Secretary just addressed was unfunded by the Democrats themselves when they voted against the CR. The CR would have kept all this funded, and they chose not to do it. Not once, not twice. 13 times in the Senate, once in the House, 14 overall. Yes, sir.
I'm sure you saw President Trump's tweet last night suggesting that it's time for Senate Republicans to blow up the filibuster in order to get the continuing resolution passed. I know in the past you've been reluctant to encourage your Senate colleagues to do that or not. Are you aligned with the president now that it's time for him to take this dramatic step to reopen the government?
I haven't. The president's been very busy. He was in Asia doing all these trade agreements. I've been a little busy, as you know. We haven't spoken since he returned. I sent him a text earlier this morning. I saw that as well. What you're seeing is an expression of the president's anger at the situation. He is as angry as I am and the American people are about this madness. And he just desperately wants the government to be reopened so that all these resources can flow to the people who need it so much. Look, I'll just say this in general. As I've said many times about the filibuster, it's not my call. I don't have a say in this. It's a Senate chamber issue. We don't have that in the House, as you know. But the filibuster has traditionally been viewed as a very important safeguard. If the shoe is on the other foot, I don't think our team would like it. The Democrats, look, they've said what they would do. They would pack the Supreme Court. They would make Puerto Rico and D.C. states. They would ban firearms. They would do all sorts of things that would be very harmful for the country. And the safeguard in the Senate has always been the filibuster. But again, Not my issue, not something I get to even weigh in on. My opinion on this is not relevant. It's the senators. But I think that it just is another expression of the frustration, of the pressure that is being felt, the anger by the president and by me and all of us that we're in this situation at all. Do your basic job. I'm going to say this again. We have put zero Republican policy priorities on the CR. It is Biden-level policies and spending. They have no support it. They have no excuse to put all this pain on the American people, except that for what we've just articulated and repeated here every day, they want to give a showing to the radical left fringes of their base, and they want to give illegal benefits or benefits back to illegal aliens and non-citizens and all the other crazy stuff that they've claimed. Yeah.
Can I respond?
Sure.
I just very quickly, I have not spoken to the president either since last night, but let me say this. He is, and I've been next to him for almost 9 or 10 years now. He is so resolutely focused on delivering for the American people all day, every day, 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. This is what he is thinking about. And as the world's greatest deal maker, from his perspective, the way he thinks out of the box as a businessman is how do we end this nonsense, and how do we again open the government, and how do we support these families that need support?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd already called on him. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Madam Secretary, question to you. So I know you addressed the contingency fund, but SNAP has never run out of funding in its 60-year history. That's right. During shutdown. Why were past administrations able to find funding to keep it afloat in a shutdown and you can't?
Well, let me see. I've got a chart I want to show you all on the SNAP funding. My charts are slightly wanky because our print shop is closed because we're furloughed. So it was a little arts and crafts time over at USDA early this morning. So this is the chart of the SNAP program. Now, I know everyone can't see this, but this goes back to October of 2023. And I want everyone to follow. This is the red line that under Joe Biden, you see an almost 30% increase in the cost of the SNAP program over the 4 years that President Biden and the USDA was overseeing it with Congress funding it. And you see now the downward trend since President Trump was reelected November, and we've had about 650,000 people move off of SNAP since President Trump was elected. A press conference for another time. That's obviously the goal of all these programs, is to move families into real work and the dignity of that. I say that because the astronomical costs of the SNAP program under Joe Biden was historical, it was unprecedented, and we don't have the same levels of funding that were there in the past. And by the way, for 1 month, we have band-aided and bubble-gummed and duct-taped this deal to get this 1 month of funding in for SNAP, the $9 billion.
Quick follow-up. I mean, because reality is setting in for a lot of people this weekend. So what do you say to the millions of people who stand to lose their food stamp benefits? What should they do?
My message to America is, first, the fact that your government is failing you right now. That poverty is not red or blue. It is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It doesn't matter who you voted for or even if you voted. That if you are in a position where you can't feed your family and you're relying on that $187 a month for an average family in the SNAP program, that we have failed you. But I think what's so important, and this is why we keep hammering this, the Republicans have voted over and over and over again to open this government so that these funds don't stop. And for 14 different times, the Democrats have said, no, we are going to hold hostage the most vulnerable families in this country so that we can get our left-wing radical agenda into the government and the governing structure. And to that, President Trump, Speaker Johnson, Majority Leader Thune have said absolutely not, and we're very grateful for that. Please vote yes. We implore the Democrats in the Senate to vote yes to get this government open and these people the benefits that they need to feed their families.
And it's clarifying. When she says we have failed you, she means we, the Democrats, okay? Because as we've just explained, Republicans have voted 14 times to get this done. The president has pleaded with Schumer and Hakeem to open the government, and they told them no. We're doing everything we can. The Republicans, they say, well, the Republicans are in charge of the federal government. Why can't they get this done? It's simple math. We need 60 votes in the Senate. We only have 53 Republicans. We have to have Democrats. It is the Democrats alone who are failing the American people. And this administration, every cabinet secretary, it's not just Secretary Rollins, every cabinet secretary is bending over backwards to make sure that the American people are served and they get what they need. But we are not magicians. We cannot wave a magic wand. The funds have run out because the Democrats are playing games. And that's why we've been here every day this month pleading with them to do the right thing. And they do not care. They have shown how callous they are. They do not care that people are suffering. And that's who's failed them. It's not the government overall. It's the Democrats who are holding up the government for working for the people. It's a very important thing. Jay, go ahead.
You undoubtedly have seen some of the modest progress in the Senate as these people are talking about spending, 26 spending. Number one, I want to get your sense for where things are, your reaction to that, and would you bring the House back if they got some sort of agreement on a number of spending bills?
Yeah, look, the whole point of this is a very important reminder. The reason we're in this mess is because they voted against the clean CR. What was the point of the CR? The CR was merely to buy us 7 additional weeks to finish the funding of the government, the appropriations process. We were working on that in bipartisan fashion and bicameral fashion. As you know, we had a conference committee set to go on 3 appropriations bills that had passed out of the House. They didn't match the Senate exactly. They were going to work through that. That's the process. And our appropriators, the members of Congress who work on all this funding every day, are raring to go. In both parties, in both chambers, they want to get back to that work, and that is the whole point. Chuck Schumer and the leadership are holding that process up. So am I optimistic that we can get back to that? Yes, but we can't do any of it until they take the simple step to vote on that additional time. It's just a stopgap funding measure to make all these services and funding flow to the people so that we can finish that work. They're holding it up. So I'm heartened, Jay, that we have members on both sides. I had a meeting with the chairman of our Appropriations Committee in my office yesterday afternoon. Tom Cole came in. We were talking about the latest and what those appropriators are doing, the things they're working on. I meet with Leader Thune about it almost daily on the subject. We are ready. The next packages of funding bills are being prepared. And yes, we want to pass that off the House as soon as possible. We want to get all 12 appropriations bills done because we're returning to regular order. That's been a commitment of mine since I became the Speaker 2 years ago, and it's something that Congress must do to be better stewards of taxpayer dollars. So we don't have, I'm using your handy chart here, so we don't have this spike in spending. We have more responsible spending. The only way to get this, to make the government work better and more efficiently for the people, is to go through that stewardship process, that important obligation that the founders intended and that we have used to respect, but we haven't in a long time. So all of this is entwined in that we've got to get Congress working again. We're anxious to do it, and the sooner we can get back here and get the lights on, the better. But the number one mission of Congress right now is to turn the government back on. There's too many people's lives and health and hunger at stake. This is not a game. They've got to stop playing games. Remember this, too. The first time in U.S. history that any party has had the audacity to do what the Democrats and the Senate are doing right now. No one ever before has shut the government down over a clean, nonpartisan CR, because it would have been unthinkable until now. And you need to remind them of that. Yes, ma'am. Last one.
The one that beautiful bill contains numerous Medicaid anti-fraud measures. Senator Tuberville recently highlighted a slew of aliens are receiving these SNAP benefits. Are there any plans to do the same with SNAP and totally reform it just to ensure that it's available only to U.S. citizens?
You want to?
Yes, in fact, we've already done that. So a couple of quick things on I guess the silver lining in all of this is that we're having a national conversation on our SNAP program, that this has sort of shined a light on a program that, especially under the last administration, has just become so bloated, so broken, so dysfunctional, so corrupt that it is astonishing when you dig in. So 3 important things on that. The first, I talked about the extraordinary explosion of benefits under the last administration. And what happened was that the money that was going out was zero accountability. So one of the very first things we did when I was sworn in was send a letter to all the states and to remind everyone the SNAP program is administered through the states and the governor's office. So send a letter to all the states saying no more illegal aliens on SNAP, period, full stop. So that's already a rule of this administration. We're working to enforce it every single day. The second thing is we began a very serious investigation into a lot of the fraud and abuse that we kept getting anecdotal stories of that no one was doing anything about. And so just in the last, I think, 6 months, we've had major dozens of arrests, people going to jail, fraudulent activity of $50 million here. One guy's registered for SNAP in 6 different states. I mean, it's one thing after another. So we are taking that extremely, extremely seriously. And we'll continue to do so. And then the third thing on this is that for the first time ever, we, the USDA, have asked the states for their data so that we can ensure that taxpayer dollars are being spent appropriately. Not surprisingly, all of the red states said, yes, please help us with this. We want to do the right thing. We want to make sure there's not all this corruption and fraud. By the way, 2 blue state-led governors also leaned in, Colorado and North Carolina, alongside every one of the red governors. But the other blue states, California, Oregon, New York, Washington, all of them actually sued us and said, oh no, we're not going to give you any data. So the problem is you have an extremely corrupt program, but up until this administration and with President Trump's direct focus on this and making sure every taxpayer dollar is spent appropriately, we've never really had the opportunity to dig in. So we're going to be talking a lot more about SNAP reform. We've got a lot of people listening now, which is very, very helpful, and to take that program back to its original intent of helping those who are truly needy in our communities, but not to have a massive welfare benefit where so many people are taking advantage of it that shouldn't be.
And I just want to add briefly, just zoom out a little bit. This is a stark contrast between the 2 parties, the 2 major parties in this country. We talk about the split screen in here very often. On this issue, with regard to reducing fraud, waste, and abuse in government, look, America is the greatest nation in the history of the world. We're the most powerful, most successful, most free, most benevolent nation that's ever been. Part of our benevolence, part of the spirit of America is that we do have these safety net programs. We support that. We have an extraordinary cabinet, like Brooke Rollins here, Secretary Rollins, who is handling and administrating the SNAP program is a good example of that. Medicaid is a good example. Why were they designed and why are they so important and why do we all support those ideas? Because sometimes people really can't take care of themselves. You know, you have the elderly, the disabled, young pregnant women, for example, who are single and they're down on their luck and they need some help. SNAP and Medicaid and these other programs were intended to be a temporary safety net to help people to get back on their feet. But they have been abused. And there are some big government advocates like the Marxists, like the socialists, who want the government to take over everything and supply everything for everybody. But guess what? If the government can give you everything, it can take it away as well, and your freedom is sacrificed. Socialism, don't get me started, has been a great scourge on humanity. I mean, the tens of millions of innocent people in the 20th century alone have died because of it. America stands for something better than that, something different. But the programs don't work if they're loaded down with fraud and abuse. And every single person in this room and every American of common sense should understand the necessity of having people in office, a president in the White House, a cabinet full of secretaries who are dedicated to this in every division of the federal government, and Republicans in Congress leading on this, to root out that fraud, waste, and abuse so the programs can survive. We did that in the One Big Beautiful Bill, in the Working Families Tax Cut. With Medicaid, we went into that and we eliminated the fraud, waste, and abuse. We got able-bodied young men without dependents off the program. They were never intended to be there. They're sitting around on their couches playing video games. Yes, that's an actual study, and they're siphoning the resources away from elderly people, disabled people, and young women who desperately need it. And so the funds were being depleted. We shouldn't go for that. And illegal aliens were never intended to be on any of these programs. They're for U.S. citizens only, law-abiding citizens. This is the team. The Republicans will fix that and save those programs for the country. And the Democrats will continue to abuse it. They sued the USDA for simply asking them to tell them how many illegal aliens are on the programs in California and New York and these other states. They sued them. You need to take account of what people are doing here in each party, the leaders and the President of the United States. We are trying to get government to work more efficiently and effectively for the people, and we are getting stopped and hindered by political games by Democrats. And that's why we're so frustrated. It's got to come to an end. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Welcome, you beautiful people here of the United States of America. Does anybody have any questions about what you just heard? I like the last one. Law-abiding citizens. That's who the benefits belong to. Not these law-abiding immigrants. That doesn't mean citizen. No legal migrants. They don't get the benefit either. It is specifically for American citizens. It is meant to be a temporary benefit. It's a temporary assistance program. It's in the name as well when you go in and apply for this. I've used it in the past. I've used it for up to 3 months, I think a couple of times throughout my whole life being here in the States. It's not something that I am proud of using, but, when you have the need, I get it. That's what it's there for. So we're not against that. We're not against migrants. We love migrants. I am a migrant myself, but I came here the right way. I came here legally. I asked for permission, was denied the first time due to some health physical. Did a health physical. We showed all the immunization, everything. We were vetted. There was no criminal activity in our past. And we were allowed to come to this country. We applied for residency. They allow us to stay, with the residency. We kept our credit, our criminal background. There was nothing on there. So then after a couple of decades and a half of being a green card holder, I applied for the citizenship, and now I am an American citizen of this country. And as such, I made an oath that I was going to abide by the laws of the United States of America, and I would submit to the government's rules and expectations, and also that I will respect the cultures that we have in this country. So therefore, even though I'm a migrant or an immigrant, I support immigrant, but do it the way I did it. Do it the way that many Latinos for Trump have done it. Now I will say this. There will always probably be illegal immigration. Let's not go around that. There probably always will be. There has been many illegal immigrants that have come to this country illegally in the past. They have been able to find papers. They've been able to get a green card, and probably some of them became citizens. That doesn't mean that we are to continue to allow that to happen. See, there's a big difference. If we allow this to happen, then you are telling the world, come over here, force yourself on the United States of America. Americans are so stupid that they think that the Constitution belongs to immigrants as well. So go over there, force yourself, stay there as long as you can, fight, riot, protest, and always throw in the word civil rights, fascists, Nazis. Where's the compassion? You're supposed to be a Christian country. All the words that they're going to throw at you to make you feel guilty about protecting and defending your country. You got to pay attention to that. Now, later today on my next live, we're going to have a couple of videos that I have for you to watch if you are really caring about illegal migration coming to this country. If you really care about what happens when a mass migration gets done to any country, I will give you no better example right now than Mexico. So you guys tune in for my next live. We're not going to do it on this one because this one is specifically about the shutdown. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, man. Thank you guys for your support. But I will say this. You do not want to miss my next live coming up. I do have to translate one of the videos, but one of them is in English. And for the most part, they're almost identical. But you need to know what migrants have to go through and what it costs the countries that allow mass migration to come through. Let me just tell you this, a little quick preview. Mexico is regretting to allow the mass migration coming through. You see, they thought that they were going to get through the United States of America. But once Trump put that plug on that wall Everybody's now just bunching up in Mexico, and they're going to start feeling what we feel and how we talk, how we defend ourselves. And you will know that everything that I have told you in this channel about illegal immigrants, about migration, about laws of immigration, they are the same in every single country. So you don't want to miss that. Let's go ahead and hit a couple of questions about the shutdown. Number one, I'm going to go ahead and start with this. We have the majority in Congress and in the Senate. Apparently, there's still a lot of people out there that don't understand that there is a minimum of 60 votes that need to cast through. Sorry, I'm getting sick. That need to be cast through in order for the government to stay open. We need 5 more Democrats. 3 of them are already on board. We need 5 more Democrats to come on board with us so that we can open government. Antonio Ramirez said, Dennis, you think you're safe. You're a disgrace to your country. And I'm going to tell you what the people in Honduras say about you. That's what they say about you. They are embarrassed. They are ashamed of you illegal immigrants coming into this country. I did an interview down in Honduras when I was down there. And I said, what do you think about all these Hondurans that go over there to the United States of America? He said, oh, you know, that's nice. It's great. If they get a chance to go down there, that's great. And what do you think about the ones that go down there illegally? Oh, they're ashamed. They don't represent us. Those are garbage people. You know, the rest of us, we know we live in a poor country, but we find a way to fight. We work hard. We try to make a living. We don't make excuses for ourselves. We stand up for ourselves. We don't depend on the government. The government doesn't do shit for us. We have to go to work. We have to get our own food, etc. That is exactly what Hondurans say about illegal immigration. So you can go ahead and sit here and insult me, but I can tell you that you bring shame to your country by forcing yourself illegally in another nation. And let me just tell you something. If you are willing to disrespect the law of another nation, which you know is greater than the one you come from, you have no respect for the law. What makes you think that I'm going to feel safe that you are here illegally? How do I not know that you are a criminal? How do I know what kind of horrific things you have done in that country? We can't take that chance. And I'm going to say that to you, every single of you Americans that come through my channel. You better watch out. And by the way, I put that on the chat already as the video was playing. Illegal immigrants doesn't mean Hispanics. Illegal immigrants, we can see there is hundreds of thousands of Somalis. This is why Ilhan Omar is in office. You see, there's a lot of blue states and cities that they have no rules to audit voting, to keep track of voting. I share a list of the Washington state of what they allow to audit. They allow nothing, no audits. Nobody can verify that voters are legit. Undocumented have been found, illegals, undocumented have been found to have voted. Fraud votes, dead people voting. There is a lot of stuff that happens, and this is why blue states stay in power for so long. True story. I was keeping track of Washington when we were voting for Trump this last election. Washington was red. And all of a sudden, it just flipped to blue instantly. Don't tell me that happens like that. There has to be a in-between. There has to be the vote count. They didn't show the vote count until they actually show Biden or Kamala winning. Listen, blue states are not to be trusted. If they don't care about the American people and they are defending illegal criminals, not just illegal, well, it's already a crime to cross the border illegally. But illegal criminals, drunk drivers, people driving without licenses, people that have committed fraud in their paperwork. These same people, the blue cities, sanctuary cities, they protect these people. I'm not down for that. I don't care if you come over here and you think, oh, I'm just going to work in construction. I kill somebody, but I'm going to work in construction. I want a new life, a new start. No, you got to go pay for your crime. If you can stay in your country legally, then let that be it. But don't go to another country because you're running away from your problem. Paying child support is the least of your worries, my friend. I paid child support for 22 and a half years. So what? I'm talking about real criminals that get through the border because they're not being vetted. If you guys don't know what vetting is, because they're not being checked. Their criminal backgrounds are not being checked. Their bank account, everything. They have to disclose everything that they have. Now, I want to say this. The most amazing thing, and I'm already giving you some tips for my next live. The most I don't know, stupid thing that I've seen is that these people sell their properties. They sell their houses to get dollars so that they can make the trip to come here illegally. You see, these people already have stuff. You see the people that come through, they're not skinny, starving. They're fat. They're fat. And there's a lot of people in there, they have a lot more than what they say they have. Now, there are some real legitimate reasons for them to seek asylum. There's a few of them that I know of. But most of them, they just use the word asylum because the country is poor. That's not a reason for asylum. That's not a reason for asylum. So when you people say here that immigrants don't get benefits, you're dumb if you believe that. They're not supposed to. I am with you. They're not supposed to, but they are. They are. Let me tell you what happens with the healthcare problem that we have. Number one, the ones making money is not you and I. Democrat politicians and politicians in general, they are the ones that get kickbacks from healthcare companies, from drug companies. There's been quite a few of them that receive almost $1 million and some over $1 million. That, my friends, is crazy. Now, here's another thing that you don't know. First of all, you defend illegal immigrants to come into this country. You want health care for all Americans. Hey, you know what? I agree. Let's get it. Let's get health care for everybody. Not everybody. I need to be careful with my words because somebody effed up in the Constitution and put persons instead of citizens. So now the whole world thinks, well, I'm a person. I guess that means it's me. Yeah, that means me because I'm also a person. Yeah. That's so retarded. I don't play games. Well, I do, but not right now. This is serious stuff. Illegal immigrants come over here and they know that the government is going to pay for that childbirth. Now you say, oh my God, that's a child, man. It's a child. Democrats who don't say shit. You guys are for a pro-abortion. As far as you guys are concerned, that child can just die in the womb. We don't think that way. But the point is that these illegal immigrants, not only are they costing us billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, they come here and they have babies. They don't pay for it. We pay for it. American taxpayers pay for it. They get paid up to $10,000 for birth. And you can search up the number on the state. Up to $10,000 to give birth to a child. That child not only is it illegal because their parents are illegal, but they give that child residency as a citizen. They make that child, because he was born here, an American citizen. And how stupid is that? It is in the Constitution. Can't change it. Well, actually, we can amend it, to be honest. What happens then? Well, now, because of that child, the family can apply for food stamps. And now that child becomes dependent on medical health care from the state and the government. Now that child gets WIC, like Americans are supposed to do, and medical benefits. You see, as long as you have one citizen in that household, they still get the benefit. Yeah, Cheeto Man is bad. No, 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 no. He is protecting you. He is protecting the American people. Salud. Man, I've been working too hard. I'm getting sick. I can't believe it. But you know what? I got to do it. I got to tell it like it is. I care about America. I want Americans to be happy, to be successful, to be the great people that they're supposed to be in this life. Why? Because nobody does more for the world than Americans do. I'm well aware of that. Corruption is on every country. This government shutdown is the massive, the most easiest proof that you can get of how corrupt a government is. There is nothing in here, nobody, well, not you patriots, I'm talking about other people, nobody on the other side that can tell us what Democrats have done to help this country. Somebody said women's right to their body. Oh man, oh man. That hasn't done shit for Americans. I'm talking about what have you done to bring money to make this country successful. Everybody talks about, oh, the poor farmers. What the hell were you when the farmers were being booted out of their farms during the Biden administration? Where were you for the farmers? You bitch and complain about Trump because he's defending his country. You bitch and complain about Americans defending their own land in the country. Well, we're not going back to the conquering days. Those days are over. This is our land. And you can say our land when you earn the right to becoming a citizen. Not just because some illegal parents brought you here and you were born here. I still have nephews that are American citizens because they were born here. One of them, my friends with my family, was illegal. Their son their daughter became a citizen. It shouldn't be. Now everybody in my family is legal, but that's not the point. The point is you got to call it as it is. Now they might not like me because that's the way I think, but they know I'm right, and they tell me that I'm right. It doesn't matter. You know what I find? That there's a lot of people that if something is wrong, they know already that is wrong, and they're not supposed to support it or do it. They have a friend that is in that situation, and therefore now they have to support it. That's not how it works. Your own brother can be a criminal. If it's a criminal, you got to turn him in. Oh, for those people that are new in here, Jeff doesn't know that I'm a Honduran American. Okay, well, now you know. Yeah, I hope so, Marvin. I hope so. Hey, Alex, good morning. I see you. Guys, if you let me just tell you something really quick. If you want to know about me, go read my damn profile, will you? I put it in my profile for YouTube. Stop asking dumbass questions in here. Go do some research. Stop finding the easy way to information. Go get some information, all right? You guys don't agree with what I say, that's fine. Now, this is the government shutdown. I gave you a chance. What questions do you have about this government shutdown that you might think that is important to know? Anybody? Nicholas Baca, America was conquered, my friend. It is what the natives were doing back in the day, and they just kept killing each other, but nothing was getting done. Settlers came in here, and this country became the United States of America. Fast forward to today. Now, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to cry and bitch and complain and moan about the past, or are you going to do something to help this country be better each day? And if you have a problem with that, why don't you spend your whole life going over there working for the Native Americans? Matter of fact, do it for free so that you can be happy with yourself. See how that goes. All right, let's see. Even your name is dumb. Let's see. Why both sides of the house still get paid? Art, 100%, man. I am with you on that. These mofos should not be getting paid. How the hell does the government get shut down and these people are still getting paid? Isn't it easier to last a long time protesting when your money is not being affected? When your immediate family is not being affected? That's a damn good question, Art. Very well put. I agree. Man, I know they don't want to give the president that much power, man. Somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to do it. I agree. So here, for some of you that don't understand why Republicans are not going to negotiate, there was a thing called the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, you Democrats call it the Big Ugly Bill because your leader, Dalabama, calls it that. So you guys all call it that way. I understand that. The Big Beautiful Bill was signed using democracy. Oh, yeah, this is what the Democrats always fight for. Democracy. All right, sure. Democracy put President Trump in office. Nah, we don't accept it. Nah, democracy, nah, we don't accept it. And then they forget about what they say, and they say, oh, Republicans are destroying, they're fighting against democracy. They're destroying democracy. Well, let's go. Big, beautiful bill. Here we go. Let's use democracy. Yep, the bill has passed. Oh, yeah, they cheated. Ah, democracy is horrible. Oh, they destroyed democracy. Okay, all right. Well, we use democracy because that's what you wanted. Everything was voted. Everything is beautiful. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, with that being said, we use democracy as they told us, and they don't like it when it goes our way. We use democracy for the Big Beautiful Bill. There's nothing they can do because the votes, the hearings, they're all public. They don't like it because we won. And now, that one very thing that they didn't want to sign off on the Big Beautiful Bill, the one that they lost by a democracy, is the very same thing they are shutting down the government right now, which the government doesn't mean shit to me, to be honest. We don't need a government, honestly. Come on. We don't need a government. What do? Well, what do communists do? What do communists do in their country? Go on and tell me, and today we're going to unmask these mofos. What do communists do in their country? And if you don't know what they do in their country, that's why you're stupid today. You know, like Senator Kennedy says, life is hard. But it's harder when you're stupid. He's right. What do communists do to the people when the people don't, well, even if the people are obeying? What do communists do when they want to get it their way and they don't? What do communists do? Let me see. Somebody in here, you guys got to know. We say we use the democratic form of government because it's the law. You have no say. No shit. And I just say that we use the democracy as they tell us to use because that's what we do, but they don't like it when we win. So what's the use of democracy then? All right, let's see. Adrian Loams, if you don't have something positive to bring in, shut the hell up. You better. Titan says we use a democratic form of government. Yeah, same shit. Antonio Ramirez, he doesn't know. He just worships. You're an ass. Michael, okay, well, all right. Okay, so I read a couple of names there. Go ahead and tell me why. Don't be a moron. Tell me why. What do communists do against their own people? You go ahead and tell me. I want to see if somebody hits it. You fill the air with black. Okay, whatever, Richard. You're a beta too. We need to sign up and help ICE. Man, Jeremy, bro, I wish I could. Let's see. Your life must be impossibly hard. No, Uber Lord, and I doubt that you're any type of Lord. Let's see. All right. Maybe Jake Coley here has something. Here we go. Let's see. Since you're so locked in, can you get me tickets to the Low T Ballroom? Low T with a $1 million plate while watching the UFC fight on the front lawn of the White House. Hey, Collie, are you paying for it? No? Then shut the hell up. Let's see. They send the military into states. Yeah, that's one of them. Adrian Loams, read the Constitution. Man, dude, I've read the Constitution more than you ever freaking learn your ABCs, bro. It's screaming, no fact. Yeah, okay, whatever, dude. There's facts all over the place. Adrian, if you don't know what communism is, just shut the hell up. Stay in your lane. Somebody already mentioned then. Yeah, that's a military. Okay, but we'll see the difference on what you're talking about. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Coley liked that answer. Tell them to go to the swap meets and get all the illegals and all the taco trucks. Whoa, yeah, we got to keep, remember, we got to keep the big booty Latinas and the taco truck people. We got to keep those people. All right, those are okay to stay in the country. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. See, Jim knows. Big booty Latina can stay. That's a Mercury H2 bomb ballroom. Yeah. Call it what you will, my friends, but you are not paying for it. If you're not paying for it, shut the hell up. If you're paying for something like SNAP, healthcare, yes, say something, because that belongs to the American people. And by the way, all this $300 to $350 million that the ballroom is going to cost to build is being paid by Trump and his billionaire friends. Something that if you and your socialist friends will never be able to do. As a matter of fact, we put all of you socialist friends in one small state and you guys go bankrupt and become the next Cuba. You guys are so retarded. If you support socialism, you are this far from becoming a communist. Let me tell you what communists do. Taxes are paying, pendejo. No, they're not. See, Jack, you are a jackass. That's what you are. Pay attention. No taxpayer is paying for the big, beautiful ballroom. They should call it the Dennis Herrera Ballroom. That is the new name. So here we go. A communist will always work for themselves. I know you people out there, you put in the National Guard as a terrorist army tactic, as what do you got, martial law? No, it's not. It's not. There is a big difference. A communist will sacrifice their people to get what they want. No patriot will ever sacrifice their people to negotiate. Democrats act like terrorists right now. But that's exactly what communists do. You see, they're sitting there pretty. Art made a question. They're sitting there pretty. They're getting paid. And they know. Listen how selfish these mofos are. They know that it's going to cost the American people, even though they're fighting for illegals, it's going to cost the American people, which is their family, which is their primary objective to serve. American citizens is the base, the foundation of this country. Migrants are visitors. A visitor needs to respect the people that own the country. I don't give a shit how you put it. The Democrats haven't done anything to financially help us. Nothing. They have done nothing to get rid of the debt. If anything, they have raised it up to $38 trillion now. And it started to go down actually because of President Donald Trump, which is what Democrats are supposed to be doing. What President Donald Trump is doing right now is what Democrats should be doing themselves. They should be looking out for the American people. Stop these blue states and cities from taxing the crap out of their constituents. To what? Provide billions of dollars to help illegal immigrants? That's not how it works. See, that's how you know that those people shouldn't be here. The more money you got to use to help illegal immigrants, the more reason for you to understand that it's not good for them to be here. If immigrants that come into this country, even if they're legal, if they were that awesome, the economy will be booming right now. What happens when you have too many people in a city? Everything goes up. Housing goes up, food goes up, everything. Why? Because they have to deplete the resources of that state because the population is too big. And then how do they get money? Do they go and make deals with other countries? No, they don't do shit. They just go and say, oh, hey, you know what? Let's tax the American people some more. Hey, let's bring some more illegal immigrants here because we don't have to pay them benefits. We'll just pay them a cheap wage. And we'll use them as slaves because that's all they're good for. They're good for cleaning our toilets. They're good for mowing the yard. They're good for planting flowers to pick cotton. Like Crockett, Jasmine Crockett said, we need illegal Mexicans to come in here and pick our cotton because us black folks, we ain't doing that shit no more. You remember that? But all you illegal immigrants, you allow people to talk about you like that? How about you have some self-respect and bring some real pride and earn your living? Do that in your country. If you're such a great worker, why don't you help your country? Why you come over here? It's not because you're a great worker. Your lazy ass always come over here because you know you're making dollars. Don't bring that bullshit excuse that you're a hard worker. That's not enough. You got to have good ethics. You got to be here legally. And if you get a permit to work, then work your ass off and show everybody how to do it. But you don't get to come into a country illegally and then pretend that everything is peachy because you're a hard worker. Oh, I earned my living. No, you didn't. You have no permit to work. That is a law. You are not allowed to work. Let me guess. I'm just going to guess. What is one reason? What is one reason why you are not allowed to work in this country if you're just visiting? Let me guess. My guess is that if you are a tourist or if you are a visitor, a migrant visitor, and you work without a permit, that money does not stay in this country. That money does not help our economy. And if you have no permit to work, that means you have no social security that says that you are legal to work. And so what's the next option? You work under the table, meaning you don't pay taxes. The next option is the illegal fraud way, which is to get a fake social security. You think I don't know how immigrants work, bro? I am an immigrant. I know how all that shit works. I know all the ins and outs and abouts about immigration, my friend. I know all the lies and all the cheats that illegal immigrants do to come to this country. So shut the hell up and don't insult my intelligence on that. Illegal immigrants send most of their money back to the country they come from. The economies in other worlds and other countries are getting better or surviving because of illegal immigrants working here in the States. And even once you become legal, you still send a lot of money to families back in your country, which is fine if you're legal. Do whatever you want. You earn the right to work for your money. Do with it as you please. Pay your taxes and do with the rest of the money as you please. But if you're an illegal immigrant, you have no right to work in this country. Back to life, back to reality. All right, guys, so before I continue talking about this illegal immigration, I'm going to cut off this live, and I'm going to start a new live because I don't want the video to be on the same part. But I'm going to tell you something right now. You don't want to miss this one. You're going to like this one. So I hope you guys get back on. Thank you so much for watching this one. I'm very sad that people didn't really ask questions about the shutdown. They will stay ignorant since they don't know why it's still happening. We are not going to negotiate what's already been voted on in the big, beautiful bill. We don't have a democracy. We don't vote for something that so that you can hold the American people ransom to get your way. We are not communists in this country, and they will learn to respect this law. Brenda, you came in at the end. I'm going to start a new live here in just a few minutes. I'm going to get these videos set up to share with you guys. And just give me like maybe 10 minutes and I'll come back on live. You have watched the 31st days of our government shutdown, which, by the way, shows